Hello again. My name's Zan. Special name the Discord Fury guy, cutting edge warrior, yada yada. Who gives a fuck? This was meant to be a video like specifically on arms, but since that time, Mr. Gregoronsen has gone back into the kitchen and done some more cooking. So we're gonna do like cover the changes that he made first, and then we'll do the arm stuff because he also made an arms tree. Um, the where is it? So like pretty much everything's the same. I think the changes start at 12 and 13. Number 9 as well. Okay, so bitter immunity is notably back on the tree. So it's like instead of you get the choice between like sustained healing and burst healing. Cool, nice. It's like I don't know, good choice. Good choice to like have to make. Um, yeah, that's nice. If there's like rot damage, you just take the what's it called? The 20 rage, 1% HP. If you need like burst healing, then you take bitter immunity. Cool. Um the bloodbath node. So he changed it. He made it a little bit weaker, which I think is fine. Um Instead of bleeding for 30% of the damage dealt, it's 20%. And the like the passive thing got changed to 10% instead of 15%. Which honestly, I'm kind of unsure about this node now since that came out. Like that's just 10% damage dealt for the entire fight. That's like really good. That's like really, really good. And it is kind of boring. So yeah. In general, I like Bloodbath more, but it's also basically just like 30% damage amp. So like, yes, it's kind of boring, but like also Bloodbath owns. We love Bloodbath. Um Roar nodes got changed. 14 Thunderous Roar initial hit is a guaranteed crit, does 50% more damage and knocks enemies down for 0.5 seconds. This is basically just turning it back into Dragon Roar or Ancient Aftershock um, from Shadowlands if you're a relatively new WoW gamer. Uh, 15 extends the duration of Thunderous Roar, Rend, Deep Wounds by 5 seconds, make your bleeds deal 10% additional damage at all times. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I don't have much to say about that. That's just kind of cool. It's a little bit like nerfed compared to what it is. I think it's like 15% or 20% right now. Um, so yeah, a little bit nerfed, but it also extends the duration, which is kind of cool. The only issue I have with this is that like one of Roar's biggest issues, and to be fair, it's like kind of counterbalanced, but like one of Roar's biggest issues is that if the things you're hitting don't live for 10 seconds, then you're just losing value on it, which sucks. The counterbalance to that is that the dot is hasted, so you get more ticks in the 10-second duration if you have haste, right? So that's cool, but the duration probably needs to be cut down a little bit, or more damage needs to be shifted into the actual button press rather than the bleed. Um, and then this was a change that I suggested to him after I made my previous video. Removing like the 5% damage and 5% leech node or whatever and putting in long arms here because it makes no sense that like pretty much every other melee has an ability to do damage from outside the normal melee range of 5 yards except for fury and arms. I think it's stupid, and you could say that's like basically just power creep, but at the same time like you've given it to pretty much every other spec. So now it's just like fury and arms, and I'm pretty sure it's like Frost DK and um, I think it might actually just be Frost DK, Fury and Arms that like don't have a way to deal damage from outside the traditional melee range. And like you can argue that Frost has like Howling Blast, but like not really. Um, so yeah, I've wanted long arms on Fury for a while, and that leads into the anger management in the class tree. Also 17 intervene. This is now also intervene or safeguard. I'm not even sure like how this would work. I mean, it's literally just like, okay, do you want to take melee attacks or do you want to reduce damage? I guess that's fine, but like you're almost always going to take the reduced damage on this. Okay, yeah, you're pretty much intervene is so niche. It's so niche unless if they make it like also redirect like magical attacks. You're never going to take it. They just need to make it redirect magical attacks too. Um, aside from that, Berserker Rage should probably just be baseline after like a little bit more consideration. This talent has like no business being in the tree. It's just like far too niche. Um, there's like maybe one or two applications like expansion wide for any given expansion where it's useful. So maybe that causes problems for PvP. I don't care. That's a mini game anyways. Um, and Piercing Howl, I don't think this should be baseline, but I've heard opinions that it should be, and I think that I think they have merit, but um, I think it's too strong to make baseline probably. And the other thing I've heard like opinions on is that Banner just shouldn't be here. And while I don't necessarily have an issue with Banner, and I think it would be cool because I never played with it, a suggestion I've heard is just like just make Spear of Bastion Bodhi and this or Blood of the Enemy if you didn't play Battle for Azeroth. It was just it basically does the exact same thing except it gives you crit chance in addition to crit damage, and it's also just an AOE around you rather than a like a circle that you have to stand in. And this is something that I've been saying for a long, long time, but I also was just like fine with Banner being here. But yeah, it should just be like Blood of the Enemy, or you could even replace Roar with Blood of the Enemy and keeps Banner. One big issue with Banner is that like it's something that if it either has to be strong enough that um it doesn't feel bad to have it not be 100% uptime. Like it basically has to be strong enough to justify it not having a 100% uptime, or it has to be 100% uptime. And if it's strong enough that it doesn't have 100% uptime, there's a good chance you're just going to use it for other people instead of yourself. Um, so yeah, it's probably a little bit problematic. But moving on, to the Fury changes as well. Um, so he made a few changes here. I also completely skipped Soul of the Battle Lord in the last video I made. So yeah, I'm gonna cover that in this one as well because I'm an idiot. Um, so let's start with that. Soul of the Battle Lord. Initially, it was just they basically operated based on what choice you picked for your execute, whether it was like spending rage or generating rage. If it was spending rage, it would execute crits would make your next rampage cost 0 rage or be free. And if you were taking the generator, execute crits would make your next rampage do 15% more damage. Both of those are fine. What I proposed was just making a choice node so that there's like more agency and freedom. This is only ever really going to be a choice node for the spender version of execute, but I'm in the camp of just like making spender execute the norm. So um, basically it's a choice node instead. Um, Soul of the Battle Lord, execute crits make the next rampage free or do 15% more damage. This would create something interesting if you chose the spender execute, right? You'd basically be like pressing execute to like fish for crits, and then when you get the crit, you just build rage for the rampage, and then you cycle it again. You just do the same thing over and over again, and you basically you use bloodthirst to like maintain enrage rather than rampage, and you just use rampage when it has the 15% bonus damage. Something I thought about like kind of afterwards was um making this 15% more damage thing stack. And again, this like specifically applies to the execute as a spender thing, but I was just kind of like thinking, you know. Um so if you make it stack, it could you because like the odds that um a 15% amped rampage outpaces a fully stacked Ashen Juggernaut execute is very low. There's like almost no circumstance where you want to press rampage over execute. Um, so maybe just like making this ramp and then it's like, okay, if you have 5 stacks of the execute thing, um, where is it? Down here. If you have like 5 stacks, so that's like what, 75% bonus damage on rampage, then you would press rampage over execute. And then that creates some like interesting interesting gameplay dynamics and a little bit more depth, which is what I think Fury is lacking. Um Okay, the first change I believe was 25 rep. It now so executes rage generation is reduced to 50%. Uh, I'm gonna read this with 27 because it doesn't make sense until that point. Execute crit chance granted is increased to 30%, and rage generated is increased to 75%. So this is basically just like a way to taper our rage generation because it's fucking outrageous. Um, Also, this only works with the spender or the generator version of execute, which is interesting. But yeah, basically, Fury's rage generation is a little bit out of control, and I know a lot of people think it's fun and cool, but I think that you cannot have any depth in the class with how much rage generation we have. You literally just like you're either playing the way we are now, where generators deal the majority of our damage, or you're playing the way that AM plays, and it's literally just like your cooldowns aren't cooldowns because they're up all of the time. And both of those playstyles are insanely boring to me. Like you don't actually have cooldowns, and I think that's stupid. I think cooldowns should do something, um, and they should do like a big something, which like previous iterations of Fury even then haven't really done. Like Wreck is a bad cooldown on its own. You have to stack like 4 cooldowns to make Fury Warrior actually do damage. Um yeah, I don't know. No particular thoughts about this. Where's 26? Just yeah, it just tapers rage generation a little bit, so I'm okay with that. 26 also grants 5% avoidance. You can take this node without taking ER. So he just wanted to give the benefit in case if for some reason you don't take your defensive, which I think is fine. But also, who's ever not going to take ER? 27. Yeah, we did 27. I should note that this is like a replacement to the Unbridled Ferocity. I like Unbridled Ferocity here. I know a lot of people kind of are iffy about it, but I think Unbridled Ferocity is like kind of a huge problem with Fury right now. It's very like feast or famine, and if you get specifically with anger management, if you get an unbridled ferocity proc, it doesn't even feel good. It just feels like you should have gotten it. It also creates like a nasty feedback loop, um, where it's like if you get an unbridled ferocity proc, it then cycles into more rampages, which is more unbridled ferocity procs. So like eventually, it wasn't uncommon in season 2 of Dragonflight to just have like 90+% of time on wreck, and if you ever dropped wreck, it just felt horrible. And that's also a big reason why I don't like season 2 Fury. Which, if you're from Skyhold, you're gonna know how vehemently I've disagreed with the playstyle being good. 28 Frothing Berserker. This is an interesting change. I kind of like this. Change from RNG refunds to something more like the version from BFA Legion. Balances Primordial Pulsar. I don't even know what that talent is. Every 150 rage spent increases your haste and damage done by 5% for 6 seconds. I think this is a super cool way to do it. Previously, it was like it just made Rampage cost in BFA it made Rampage cost 95 rage, and it gave you like 10% damage or 10% haste and 5% damage. And in BFA, it was when you hit 100 rage. It didn't make Rampage cost more, just when you hit 100 rage, you got Frothing Berserker, which increased your damage by like 10% or some shit. I think this is a much nicer way of doing it. This is a cool change. Um, it yeah, it keeps your rage economy like pretty much the same. You're just gonna be hitting Bloodthirst whenever you want. Which, granted, it kind of just like feeds back into like the press Rampage on cooldown. Don't care about any other button except for pressing Rampage. But it's also much more elegant, I think, than making it cost 95 rage. Although making it cost 95 rage now with like the 130 rage cap from the talent tree is kind of would be like nice, because before in BFA you were basically just rage capping and then pressing it, which never felt good. It would feel much better now if that was the case. But I'm cool with this. This is nice. This is a different take than I've seen on it before. Um, yeah, don't need that anymore. We're gonna do the arms tree. I am like very well known for not being an arms person. I don't particularly like the spec because basically since Old Year, it's been like the exact same. You've basically just been playing Test of Might. In Shadowlands, you did different things, and the mastery got reworked, but I didn't hear anyone praising Arm's design for that tier, so or for that expansion. So I'm assuming it was probably just as bad as it was in BFA. This spec has basically been fucking lobotomized, and castrated in Dragonflight. It started off like not great, and then it was made better, and then we got later into the expansion and rage generation got out of control, and now you have a cosmetic rage bar. So, um, not great, considering that Arms' like identity for a long time has been rage management. Uh, yeah, they like. I'm not happy with Fury, but this spec needs to change. It is horrendous the way they've designed it. Absolutely horrendous. Um, I've barely looked at this talent tree. I looked at like the test of might change, and I thought it was pretty cool, so I decided to make a video on it. Or at least that was like the primary reason behind this video, but I got lazy. So I should have made this a lot sooner, but I didn't. Oh well. Um, One tactician gives overpower a 1% chance per rage spent to refund one charge. I think that's the same as it is now. I don't really know. Let me just get the WoW head talent tree up. I didn't spell that right. Whatever. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. Uh, oh, for fuck's sake. All right. We do this, and we do this. All right. Cool. Uh, is tactician in the? I guess it's right here. Okay, 1.3%, 1%. Yeah, that's basically the same. It's just like a little bit weaker because it's higher up in the tree. That's fine. I also that's another issue with arms that I like know for a fact is that overpower is not a spender and it's one of your best buttons. So it just leads to arms like almost never spending rage, which really, really, really sucks. Like it's your best button behind execute, pretty much, as far as I'm aware. Execute and Mortal Strike. Um, it's just way too high in the priority. Uh, so you just never spend rage, and even in execute, it ends up becoming a rage generator, which, funny enough, is the only time you need rage. Um, but with how many yeah, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues that are compounding to make arms like as bad as it is. I'm not gonna go over them. I'm also not particularly like well informed on them, or like yeah, super in the know about them. So I'm just gonna look at the tree and say what I like and don't like. Improved Overpower grants a second charge and makes it increase the damage of the next Mortal Strike or Cleave cast by 20%. I'm pretty sure this is just the, like, okay. It's just. Also, yeah, Mortal Strike has been removed. It basically just gives you a free talent point and pushes um, Colossus Smash up because it's your main CD, and for some reason that's locked below the second gate. Makes no sense. Whatever. Move it up. Cool. Where the hell did Die by the Sword go? It's still there. I'm just stupid. Okay. Um, yeah, improved overpower. Isn't this just what overpower does currently? Am I insane? I thought it just did that. I guess, yeah, it just does that. Okay, yeah, it's the same as just overpower. Interesting. And for the kill now grants 10% increased critical strike chance. Nice. Um, so notable changes. Execute has obviously been removed, or sudden death has been removed because it got moved over to the class tree. Same with Blood Surge because it's in the class tree, and the defensive nodes have just replaced them. In the proposition tree over here. Um, yeah, sure. Uh, this row has been moved up to be under Colossus Smash. I think this node is still the same. Or no, this is just blunt instruments now. Okay, yeah. So in for the kill, 10% increased haste and crit chance rather than just haste. That's cool. Arms likes crit chance and it likes haste too. So I can't think of a reason why this would be bad, except for like I don't know, you could argue power creep, but I mean arms isn't exactly powerful right now. So yeah, that sounds good to me, man. Um, blunt instruments is there. You just get that baseline. That's kind of cool. I like that. I don't know. It's just more damage, right? You could argue just buff Colossus Smash, but I get it. There's like the opportunity cost of having to take a talent point, so why not? Four, improved slam increases rage cost to 30 and damage done by 50%. I believe that's this like this is it's taking the name from this node. But slam is a dog shit button, so yeah, sure, buff it by 50%. I think this is also kind of compensating for the fact that crushing force was removed. Slam just does piss damage, so buffing it is fine, even by way of a talent point. It probably needs a baseline buff as well. Opportunity strikes. Your melee swings have a chance to inflict a quick strike upon your target, dealing damage and generating 3 rage. The chance to proc increases the lower the target's health. That sounds kind of sick. This is like, to me, this is like kind of, it feels like you're making, it feels like the removal of Blood Surge from the talent tree is being made up for. And it's also just like a single target version, which is kind of cool. I'm almost certain this was probably just something in an older iteration of Arms that I did not play. But it's kind of cool. I'd like to know like the chance to proc. But the fact that it's like scaling with like basically from 100 to 0 is pretty neat, and it fits in line with Arms class fantasy of like hitting the execute button. So 6, Ravager Bladestorm choice node. I like that. I like that when Arms had the choice between the two. Although I do know that some people would just like both. So yeah, I don't know. I don't feel any particular way about it. The only thing with like the Ravager Bladestorm choice node is that like Ravager is pretty much always better because you don't have the opportunity cost of not casting things during blades. Like there's no opportunity cost there. You just like throw the Ravager down and then you do damage during it, right? And that's like the biggest benefit. And I think that's like unless if you massively buffed with Bladestorm, you'd probably just always take Ravager, which is a bit of an issue. And like in the past, they've like nerfed things so that Ravager isn't as strong, right? Like most notably is like the Tomb Sargeras tier, where you cast Blade Storms like or you cast Mortal Strikes during your Blade Storm or Ravager, and it was like half as effective for Ravager as it was for Blade Storm. But even then, it doesn't matter, um, because you're just getting all the benefits with none of the downside. So you'd have to like tune up Blade Storm heavily, or just make it its own node, for that to be real. I like Ravager is just so much better of a button, in general. Yeah, I like the idea that this would be a choice node, but in practice, I think you just always press Blade Storm or press Raptor. So yeah, something to think about for that one. Impale still the same. At least there's no notes about it. 7, improved Mortal Strike. Mortal Strike now applies rend to targets below 35% HP if talented, deals 10% more damage, and can now proc opportunity strikes at a higher rate than normal. Your melee swings. I wonder if this is supposed to like is this just supposed to be like any melee attack? Like is this like overpower fucking Rend Thunderclap Mortal Strike Execute all have a chance all have a chance to like proc this quick strike and generate 3 rage? If so, I think this is cool, but like I don't know, maybe I'm just stupid and not reading properly, but To me, this seems like these two things don't interact. But if they do, then that's like, yeah, sure, cool. Um, like basically just more incentive to press Mortal Strike, which is fine. You're already pressing it on cooldown anyways. 8 Unhinged. Unhinged cast 3 Mortal Strike at your target and Blade Storm into a Ravager. This would have to be like 6 and 3 for this to be good, I think. Which is the unnerfed version from Team Restore Garrus, but the power creep from this expansion has been ridiculous, and I think casting 6 or 3 in Ravager would not be overpowered, which is like insane to say. That said, it being this high in the tree and also doing those things might be a bit much. But regardless, the Blade Storm number has to be like double the Ravager number. It just like it can't be any other way, pretty much. Yeah, this should be 4, I think, and this should be still be 2. 2 is fine. 2 is good. It like the fact that it's 1 on live is pitiful. It does fucking nothing. It's really bad. And like the reason it's so bad on live is because it's like massive talent point investment. First of all, you have to put like 1 into like some random versatility node that's dog shit, and then you also have to put a point into Blade Storm, and then you have to go into Unhinged, and it's only 1 Mortal Strike, so it's like never worth it. The reason it is like that is because of PvP. But again, PvP is a mini game. I don't give a fuck. Just make it 4 and 2. 9 choice node between improved sweeping strikes and broad sweeps. Sweeping strikes now hits a third target. I assume that's that. So broad makes it hit a third target, and improved is just the same as it is now. So it just lasts longer. I'm still of the mind that sweeping strikes should just be passive. It literally shouldn't even be inactive. Why do we have to press a button to cleave 2 targets? It's only 2 targets and it's only in melee range. It just doesn't make sense to me. On top of that, it's at 70% damage, I think. Um, I could be wrong. Maybe it's 75. 75. But yeah, I don't know. It should just be passive like it was in Legion. The Legion sweeping strikes was like way stronger. It was like I think it was 70% and you hit 2 additional targets. Like it was just fucking insane. That's my main problem. It should just be the Legion version, and then this talent node should be like do more damage or hit like a 4th target or some shit. I don't know. Yeah, sweeping strikes insanely underpowered. Just revert, go back to Legion. Um, okay, we're gonna go 22 and then 10. 22 skull splitter generates 15 rage, applies split skull to target's hit, making bleeds applied deal their damage 100% faster for 10 seconds, and then split skull now also makes your bleeds deal 20% more damage. So the split skull is like the debuff that's applied on the target from skull splitter. So this doesn't just like make your bleeds 20% more damage all the time. It's just like when your bleeds are like ticking 100% faster, they are also dealing 20% more damage. Um, cool. I think this is still worse than the like skull splitter that they had originally in terms of damage anyways. But it's a little bit more interesting. I just don't really care for skull splitter. I thought it was better as like it was nice as a rage generation tool, and now that we don't need rage, it's just kind of lost its place. Um, yeah, you just like need a hard rework arms rage generation and spending. But I believe that's solved later on in the tree, anyways. So we move on. Shattered defenses after using Colossus Smash. Your next Mortal Strike or Cleave deals 100% additional damage and is a guaranteed critical strike. This is Shattered Defenses from Legion. It worked in Legion because Tactician reset Colossus Smash. This is a lot stronger than the one in Legion because we don't reset Colossus Smash. But I'm still not sure how much this would matter. It would probably have to read like your next 3 Mortal Strikes or something. Honestly. Because, yeah. You're basically getting like a Colossus Smash every like 20 seconds or something. Maybe two Mortal Strikes. It's like 6 seconds out of 20. Yeah. To be clear, I'm very like with the idea of this returning. I'm just not sure how well it works in a version of ARMS that doesn't have Colossus Smash resets. Specifically for only the next Mortal Strike or Cleave. I think it should be like next two Mortal Strikes or Cleaves. Or even like adding Execute as well. Mortal Strike, Execute, or Cleave would be good. Um yeah. I love the idea of this coming back. I'm just not sure how much it makes sense. So 12. Mortal combo. Mortal Strike and Cleave have a 15% chance to strike a second time for 60% of the damage. This was. It's a cool idea, but it turns the spec into a casino spec a little bit. I would be more happy with something that read like basically like something that augments the amount of rage spent by Mortal Strike for a damage increase rather than just a second Mortal Strike. Just so that it becomes reliable and doesn't feel as bad when it doesn't happen, and kind of helps solve the rage economy issue with arms currently. Yeah, this is like it's a conduit from Shadowlands, and I know like people liked it. That like you hit Mortal Strike and you hear the thing go off twice. Pretty cool. But conceptually, I think stuff like this feels worse when it doesn't happen than it feels good when it does happen. And for that reason, I think it should just be like, oh yeah, your Mortal Strike costs 15% or like 15 more rage or something and does like 30% increased damage or some shit like that. Um, or even like 10 rage or something like that. The numbers don't really matter, but I think that would make more sense to me. 13. Fervor of Battle. Casting Whirlwind now also slams your primary target. I don't like Fob. It is not a talent that I enjoy, but yeah, it should just be reverted. There's like making it like the two target thing. It just made it like super 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 niche, and it was like kind of dumb. Um, like arms two target niche is already a thing, right? Like you don't need to further incentivize it. They're just like always going to be the two target spec. You don't need to like make this talent unpickable by making it only good on two targets. It's like two target cleave is already a pretty rare niche to fill. Especially like specifically two target melee cleave. It's just like it happens like once a raid maybe. So yeah, just revert it or remove it. I don't care. I don't like Fob. I think Fob is bad, but it definitely shouldn't be in the iteration that it is if it's going to be in the game. Um, I think this is just collateral damage. I think personally that collateral damage should be reverted to the way it was in BFA, where it's just like, okay, if you're hitting a second target, you get 20% of the rage spent regenerated or like refunded. I think making it like this is it's so like it's cool, but it's like so niche. It was good on like precisely one boss in all of Shadowlands after the rework, and there was like some cooking being done with arms and this collateral damage talent in this expansion, which never really panned out because arms just sucks. Um, just revert it. Just revert it, man. Um, I don't know. Do something with it. It sucks. It's really bad. Moving on. I don't have anything else to say about that, man. It's donkey. Reaping Swings. If Cleave strikes four or more targets, it deals 50% more damage, and its cooldown is reduced by 3 seconds. Cool. give arms some ability to deal damage outside of Blade, Storm, or Roar for 5 targets. It's fine by me. I don't have any issues with that. Excuse me. Um, yeah. Also, incentivizing cleave is nice. Cleave has kind of been like a. They just need to make it a chunkier ability. They need to make it do damage because it kind of doesn't. It's just kind of a deep wounds applier. Um, 15 deft experience now increases tactician's chance by 0.25 and 0.5. I'm fine with that. It's this is just saying less overpowered procs, more rage management, um, which is good. I think that, like, from what I've heard, that is a big problem with arms, or that is like the big problem with arms, is that you're pressing too many abilities that don't cost rage, or that give you rage. Um, so yeah, that's good. Just less tactician procs. 16 Deadly Calm, new button, replaces the Bladestorm capstone. Well, new. Uh, yeah. Deadly Calm for 20 seconds. Your abilities cost 30% more rage, and you have 20% extra critical strike chance, and your critical strike damage is increased by 40%. That's a big fucking cooldown. That 30% more rage thing is what I was talking about earlier, in terms of like helping solve the arms rage economy issue. I don't know what the cooldown for this is. I assume it would be like 1.5 minutes because pretty much all Warrior CDs are 1.5 minutes. This is a fucking huge cooldown, and it helps arms like. I think it fits that like the rage management thing like really fucking well. I think it's super sick, and it feeds it gets a lot better once you read Tom as well. So we'll try to get there quickly. 17, Crushing Advance. Dealing damage with deep wounds has a 15% chance to make the next mortal strike unleash a wave of destruction in front of you, dealing damage, stacks 10 times. This is, I'm pretty sure this is just the Aberrus tier set, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's pretty neat. Um, yeah, I think that's sick, actually. It's just passive damage, right? Um, that also scales in AoE. Obviously, it gives you AoE damage outside of Cleave, outside of Blade Storm, outside of Dreadnought. Um, and I'm pretty sure this is what. Oh, I guess Dreadnought's up here. That's like 23. Yeah, it just moves Dreadnought up, but on the other side as well. So yeah, that's pretty cool. It basically just like it's Mortal Strike Dreadnought, right? That's it. Um, 18. Where's 18? Where's 18? 18. Improved Whirlwind. Whirlwind now costs 40 rage, deals 30% more damage, has a 15% increased critical strike chance. That is basically just replacing Barbaric Training. And I believe it's also kind of replacing Storm Swords. It's like kind of sorta, it's like a middle ground, right? That's fine by me. Um Again, more solutions to the arms warrior rage economy problem is like more than welcome. 19. This is the follow-on nodes to Deadly Calm now. During Deadly Calm, you generate 15% more rage. This is a baby wreck. And presumably you'd still have access to the Warlord's Torment or Blade Masters. Like you'd still have access to these. So yeah, that's cool. You generate more rage and your abilities cost more rage. That's fine. Um, this is like the really fucking cool one that I think is, or at least this is the one that I like a lot. Test of Might reworked. Every 15 rage you spend during Deadly Calm increases the damage you deal by 1% until it expires. Um, this is basically Pillar of Frost for DKs. Um, so on the last global, you would want it basically just makes it so like you want your biggest hit on the last global. Um, I think that's really cool. When I told other people about this, they were like, "Yeah, that's kind of cringe because you just save everything for the last global, and then you press it." Which specifically the complaint I heard arise about this was trying to time fatality with this test of might pop, which could be incredibly annoying. I will say that it would be very 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 annoying. Um, I still don't hate the idea, but yeah, it would be pretty annoying if like your deadly calm expired like 1 second too early or something. But in general, I think this is like such a sick idea. This little like trifecta of nodes, rather than having Tom be like plot like tied to Colossus Smash, I think having it tied to like a bigger CD is like pretty cool. Because like right now, it basically just makes arms like a flatline spec. You don't really have burst. You just have your spec is just like whoop, the same the entire time, and out of sustained damage is only ever really good if it is like so significant, like such a significant amount higher than every other damage in the game. Like you just much rather have burst. And I think having it so that this is not something that like prolongs afterwards, right? Because like the issue that I've always had with Tom is that like it feels like your damage isn't there until the Tom buff, and that just sucks, man. And even like in this, that was the way it was in BFA. Like you didn't have damage until after your test or your Colossus Smash expired. And then this expansion, it's like you technically have more damage inside of Colossus Smash, and then you just have like a little bit boosted damage for your Tom window. And yeah, just turns arms into a sustained spec, which could be good sometimes for sure. But largely, you just prefer to have burst damage, and this is just burst damage, and I really 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 like that. Um, yeah, the only problem I see arising is that like you'd basically pop this, you'd spend rage for 10 seconds, and then you'd use all of your other cooldowns, which might get annoying for some people, but in general, I'm a fan of. Also, Warbreaker got moved to its own node. I kind of skipped over that. But yeah, that's sick. I don't, every other spec gets to have their artifact node without cost, like without it occupying the same spot as their main CD. I don't see why arms shouldn't be the same. Like there's no reason for us not to have Colossus Smash and Warbreaker, which is actually another argument for Shattered Defenses, right? Because Warbreaker, if basically Shattered Defenses applies with Warbreaker as well, then that's a sick node. It's pretty good. I still think it should be like two, and execute should be included, but it just gives you higher uptime on Colossus Smash, and that's pretty sick. It's what 13 seconds, 45 seconds CD, both get reduced by AM. You'd probably have 100% uptime on your Colossus Smash debuff. Which I mean, it's not. It's at 30%, but that's like I think that's fine. I think yeah. I don't know. Maybe Warbreaker wouldn't have to give Shattered Defenses. I'm not really sure. Oh, I'm not smart enough with arm stuff to be making these decisions. But I do like the idea of these two things being decoupled. I don't see why it shouldn't be that way. Um, Having both is super nice. You shouldn't have to pick. Um, Fan of longswords. This is the last talent point. Casting Mortal Strike or Cleave lets out a whirlwind at 60 or 40% effectiveness, depending on which one you're casting. I don't know why it would be different for Mortal Strike or Cleave. Like, I don't think it matters. Does Reaping Swings do anything? Oh, I guess because you're just casting it a lot more often, right? So it's like, yeah, 3 second. Okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Never mind. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. It's just more world. You would have a fucking shit ton of damage as arms and AOE. Oh my god, you would have a lot of damage. Like you'd be pressing Mortal Strike, you'd be pressing Cleave, and you'd be pressing Whirlwind. All of these things feed into your Deadly Calm and your Tom window, and then on top of that, you also have like you would theoretically have Ravager or Bladestorm. Almost certainly Ravager because you want to cast all of those things at the same time. That would be fucking disgusting. Oh my god, that would be so much damage. And then all of these are like letting out whirlwinds that do 60% reduced damage, but you also have 30%. Yeah, there's a lot of cool synergies here. Um, Pretty much all of the execute stuff got moved over to the left side of the tree. I assume this is Executioner's Precision. This is Juggernaut. I don't know what this talent point is. I'm going to assume that it's Fatality. If it is, oh no, it'd be Okay, so this is Massacre. This is Executioner's Precision. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, nuke fatality from orbit. This is just a trinket. This is a trinket from Battle for Azeroth called the Dribbling Ink Pod. But this one scales off attack power, so if you want to min max it, you have to do some cringe shit, which it's almost never worth it to do. But um, yeah, you can do some wacky stuff like the Smolderon trinket, Rage of the Ember Soul, I think it's called. So the way to min max this, right, is it's attack power, right? So what you do is you try to line up your test of might window with fatality, and then you get like a 30% bigger fatality. What else you can do is you can pop the Rage of the Ember Soul with the Tom, so you get a 30% amp on the 7k strength. And then that also feeds into the fatality. It gives you like a double damage fatality. It's ridiculous. Um but you never see it because Arms is bad. If Arms was good, you'd probably see people doing that and you'd think it was really cringe. So yeah, nuke fatality. This talent is kind of problematic in that it's a capstone and it basically does nothing for you. Um, it's basically like it's execute damage that you invest in outside of execute phase, which is like kind of cool, but you don't interact with it at all. So it's like, why is this a capstone? Just make it weaker and put it higher in the tree. Um, but yeah, lots of issues with arms. Hopefully they fix them. This like to me, there's like two specs that are the most in need of a rework, or I guess three. It's like Windwalker Monk, um, Frost Decay, and Arms Warrior. Those are like top three in the game by far. Those specs are so fucking dysfunctional. Monk just has been dysfunctional forever. It just needs it, man. I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to see Arms return more to its like Legion playstyle where it's like big hits every once in a while, or like not every once in a while, but it's like, slower, bigger hits rather than what we have now, which is basically just Fury Light. Yeah, it has no identity. It is an absolute shit show of a spec. You don't even pay attention to your resource. You just press execute, and you press Mortal Strike, and you press Overpower, which is yeah, about functionally the same playstyle as Fury. This spec needs God. Goodbye.